Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new video. So we're going to do something today that is quite different. I have a number of environments that I received for the recent challenge, and what I'm going to do is kind of talk through them, what I see, suggestions that I might have, and so forth. Now, keep in mind that the last thing I want to do is, critique on somebody's creative, inspiration and so forth. It's purely some considerations that I would have, right? So it's not good, it's not bad, it's just my personal input, right? Okay, so we're going to start off with Theo. The goal of the challenge was to do environments. And this environment is called New York, right? As you can see up here. Right, so what have we got going on here? Well, a lot of very modern buildings, as you can see, a lot of glass, a lot of, shiny elements, a lot of mirrors and so forth, and a few things that I notice here. First of all, it seems that these right here, the kind of orange looking type deals here, they are pillars to an old bridge that used to run here. Considering that it's New York, considering the real estate, considering that it is super, super expensive real estate, I wouldn't imagine that to remain in place. It would either turn into some kind of monument or it would be taken down, right? Next is I see a lot of open space right here, a whole lot. Well, for the same reason, I don't think that would be super realistic unless this would be some kind of after nuclear war type deal or something like that. Yeah. This space is super valuable, and you would at least see some buildings here, right? Now there's a bridge up here, so you could argue that this is a riverbed, but if that were the case, then it would be much deeper. Otherwise, all the buildings would flood, right? Okay, what else? Looks like this is something of a nuclear power plant, which kind of indicates that if that's the case, then this is something somewhere in the future, right? Looking at the type of buildings here, they all look very futuristic. You could say, well, that is the case. Now, if that is so, then you might want to add some elements here to kind of indicate that it is, in fact, somewhere way in the future. How can you do that? First of all, you can make things look super grungy, maybe overgrown with ivy, as in, it hasn't been maintained in 150 years. That's one way to go. What you could do is, for example, add some air traffic, so some kind of spaceship type deal. Now, I see a spaceship down here, which is very cool. If you wanted to kind of timestamp this, that it is something way in the future, I would maybe add some traffic flying in certain patterns, right? Other than that, I feel that it is all super, super clean. And one thing I would probably do is kind of color grade it. And again, I don't want to, change anything on Theo's work. It's purely a suggestion, right? So what I would do, for example, is I would create a new layer. A new layer, yeah, there you go. And then I would select that, I would pick a color, something probably blue, and I would go in here and I would make it completely blue. Then I would go to the blend mode, and you can see as you choose the different types here, you get a very, very different look. Now I would usually go for something like an overlay, and suddenly it ties everything a bit more together. And again, that's purely a suggestion. Other than that, I don't know if the buildings are related to existing buildings. I think they look very creative, and I love it. It's certainly something that inspires to tell a story. So very cool. Okay, next one. We're going to go all the way to the left. We're going to go to Nestor. Nestor is someone who has been following my channel for a long, long time, and he made a lighthouse scene. Okay. Now, there's one thing straight up that I saw immediately, and I think that's kind of a shame, right? if you look at this cloud formation on the left here, the cloud formation on the right is the exact same one, but upside down. And I spotted that like within a second. And that's too bad. I mean, this is an easy fix, right? Even if it wasn't a perfect mirror. What you're seeing here is you have perfect symmetry in the sky, left of the lighthouse, right of the lighthouse. I wouldn't do that, right? Now, I like the birds. I think that's a very nice touch. I'm always looking at the light angle, and you see that the light is coming from this direction here, hitting the lighthouse. If that's the case, then how can the light hit the boat from this angle, right? This whole side of the boat would be shaded because the light is hitting the other side, right? Then it seems that everything has been processed in post through Photoshop, because I see especially the floor here, the grass and the rocks. It looks kind of like an HDRI image, and it's a bit much, yeah. The horse kind of seems that he's kind of floating in midair. He doesn't look connected for some reason. I think it's mainly because of the lighting, and the light is literally hitting the horse from this side, so it's coming strictly from the left, where the light on the lighthouse is coming from more like the back or that angle over here. So other than that, I think it tells a cool story. I like the fact that it's a lighthouse. I would not put the lighthouse smack in the middle for composition reasons, and I'll explain that in a minute when I go and look at the other pieces. Okay, proportion wise, I think it looks cool. I like the theme very much. I think the lighthouses are always cool. Maybe I would have aged the building a little bit more. These tend to be not brand new structures. They tend to be around for a long time, so maybe a sagged roof or something. But other than that, very cool. So good job, Nestor. Yeah. Next one up is somebody who sent in 5 entries of the same thing, which is fine, I guess. It's no problem with that. So a lot to talk about, right? Let's start with the first one. Okay, so Nicola sent this in. It's I would call it kind of a game style setup, and I think that's perfectly fine. It seems to be a forge, and looking at what I see on the floor here, shields and swords and so forth, it is certainly dated, right? So it's old, okay? Okay, let's move on. Well, first, what I notice is everything is super straight. So the roof of the building, not sagging at all, no tiles missing, no damage to the building at all. It's a bit too clean, right? Absolutely love the background there. The mountains, the water, the lake or the fjord, not sure what that is, but I like it very much. I like the angle, the camera angle. And yeah, that said, the camera angle is always important. Do you want to have an eye view, so like a first person view? Do you want to have a bird's view? Kind of depending on what kind of story you want to tell, right? Looking at the next one here, an interior. Let me get rid of that brush there. Very cool. I like the setup. Too bad that the fireplace, that light is completely blown out. It's completely white, right? So you can't really see any detail anymore. That's too bad. As far as the chimney is concerned, texturing is a bit small. I love the texturing on the wall. I think it's very cool. A lot of pots and jars and stuff here. Overall, I like this a lot. I like the fact that you got a lot of details going on the table here, some small items. The light in the back through that window gives a good depth perception, and it looks like the model that we just saw on the outside was literally modeled on the inside as well, so it doesn't look like they're 2 different models, but I'm not sure. Okay, next one up, different angle here. Looking at the chair, I would say that the backrest is a bit short compared to the seat itself. Keep in mind, all of these pieces of furniture would have been made by hand, right? no electric tools and nothing like that. So you would see pegs down here, or in this hinge point here. You would probably see forged steel to reinforce everything, considering that the whole idea is that this guy, is a guy that does forging for a living. Yeah. What else? This cupboard here, or this closet, looks a little bit luxurious, I would say. And looking closely at the rocks that have been used for the walls, they look so big and so heavy compared to the furniture that it would probably be impossible to lift them, right? Just as an indication here. But that said, I absolutely love the theme. I think a forge is always a cool thing to do. But because it is a forge, everything is super, super clean. Now, if a guy that's working in soot all day long would be living here, you would notice that, right? Everything would be kind of grungy, I guess. Yeah? Okay, next one. All right, a very different angle here. Top view of the forge itself, which seems to be nice and hot. Not sure whether he would put the pliers here like that, because the handles would be scorching hot. Love the hammer, love the anvil here. This thing down here would be made out of wood, so it would probably have, splits in it and whatnot. That said, again, I love the theme. Whole bunch of tools on the table here. Shields, helmets, again, everything is super, super clean. This floor right here would be absolutely black, right? Especially the wall on the furnace here, everything would be black from soot. But these are minor details. I think the overall layout is very cool. And yeah, I can see myself playing a game in that environment, right? One more here. Cool thing with the sign is that it doesn't say the word like forge or whatever. It's symbolized, which is not uncommon back then. Not everybody could read, right? So you would have a symbol instead. Like I said before, weapons. Keep in mind though that a sword that's right here, it's sticking in the sand. I don't see a guy, taking all this time to make a perfect sword and then stick it in the sand, right? It'd probably lay it on the table, or, and again, super, super minor details, but just my observation. Okay. Yeah, I like it a lot. Okay. So, up next, we're going to look at, let's see, what do we got? We have this guy, yeah, Nestor, we looked at that. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the forge here. Okay, this one is a 2D piece. It's made by Sarah, and 2D is allowed, or was allowed, I should say, for the challenge. And this is very interesting because I'm doing this one last for a reason. I think there are a lot of elements here that are very smart and very well done. And I talked about this in the previous videos. If you look at the composition here, the composition I think is very strong. And what I'll do is I'll create a layer here so I can kind of point that out with a couple of lines. So I'll take a brush, make it nice and small, and maybe take some red color or something. Let me just see. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so if you look at this, the central focal point is basically this right here. It's a very bright, lights coming through the trees, and that's where the origin is of the river, right? That's right there. Composition-wise, you see lines drawing your eye to that point, right? So you basically see everything pointing to that point right there, yeah? Which is smart. It's a good use of composition. And I call that light painting, right? Looking at the light itself, the light seems to be coming from back there, right? And if that were the case, it would be impossible to have light on the front of this guy and also on the front of this guy, right? If the light were coming from this direction, then you would have light here and this would be shaded, right? If they were coming from the back here, like so, then this would be shaded and this would be shaded, and you would have light on the top. But that said, the depth that has been created here, I think is absolutely amazing. There's a difference between dark and light, and even lighter, which is awesome. Leading lines, very good. The sense of proportion, really nice. We have some lens flare going on here, which kind of adds to the fantasy element of it. We have some depth of field going on here. This is kind of out of focus back here. This is more in focus. So a lot of elements that are working and working nicely. If I had to have a comment about something that I noticed, it is literally this door right here. And the cutoff here, right, that doesn't work for me. But that's like a minute detail, right? So overall, I think this is a super strong piece. Yes, it's 2D, so there are very different techniques in making this. And I originally was a 2D guy before I started in 3D, so I can really appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, so that's just my 2 cents on the entries that I received. Unfortunately, the number of entries I received in this case, as you can see, is 4. And the challenge had a minimum of 5. That's too bad because the challenge has been running for 5 months. It's been announced to hundreds of thousands of people, and it seems that there wasn't a lot of interest to participate, right? Nevertheless, I wanted to share the hard work done by the artist with you because I think they deserve that exposure. I think they all did a great job, and the points that I mentioned, it's definitely not critique, it's just some minor observations, okay? So everybody, well done. For all of you watching this, I hope the tips helped you a little bit. Yeah, check out the work of the artist, and that said, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye.